We're going to continue finding the area of composite shapes. Today, you're going to use what you know about area of triangles and rectangles to find the shaded area of each of the following figures. We're going to start with this figure here. Make sure that it is open in your notebook so that you can take notes as we solve it together. Here we want to find the shaded area of the rectangle below. The entire green box is a rectangle, and that's really important because that means that each corner is 90 degrees. And that is going to help us find the area of the shaded figure. If you look at the shaded figure, you see that it's 3 sides, which means that it's a triangle. Now, if you take your book and you rotate it so that it looks like this, it might even be easier for you to see the triangle and its base and its height. Looking at it from this angle, I can see that the 4 meters on the bottom can be the base. If I look at the highest point, right here, I can see that this line is going to make its height. I know that this can be the height and this can be the base because I know that this corner right here is 90 degrees and that the base and the height will always come together at a 90-degree angle. So that means that my base is 4 meters, the height is 18 meters, and now I can solve. Copy the following down with me in your notebook. The area formula for a triangle is half times base times height. We identified the base as 4 meters and the height is 18 meters, so I'm going to fill in both of those values. However, before you solve, you might want to do some rearranging. Remember, in multiplication, it doesn't matter in what order you solve. 2 times 5 is the same thing as 5 times 2. So I would personally choose to move the 18 to my second factor and write it like this, half times 18 times 4. Because then I can solve the whole thing mentally without having to do any long multiplication on paper. Now I'm going to multiply half times 18, which is 9, and then 9 times 4, which is 36. It is area, so it's going to be meters squared. And that's my final answer. The area of the shaded figure is 36 meters squared. We're going to complete this problem together as well. Make sure that you're taking notes in your notebook. I will, however, be stopping the video at certain parts so that you can complete certain calculations on your own before continuing the video. We are told to find the shaded area of this rectangle. So we know that the entire figure, or the outline of the figure, is a rectangle. If I look at just the shaded part, or the orange section, you can see that's not a rectangle or a triangle. So I'm going to have to use what I know about just rectangles and triangles to find the shaded part. If you look at the entire figure as a rectangle, and you can see the white section as a triangle, you can also see how if you find the entire rectangle, the entire area of the figure, and take away that white section, take away the triangle, you would be left with the 4-sided orange figure that you see before you. So we're going to need to solve this in a couple of steps. Take notes in your notebook with what you see here on the screen. Our first step is going to be to find the rectangle. So I've drawn a rectangle and I've got 1 written inside of it because that's my first step. I'm going to use the formula for rectangles, which is area equals length times width. I'm going to identify the length and the width of the entire rectangle, which is 8 and 12. 7 is not the length or the width because you can see that it's only part of one of the sides. 7 only goes from the top of the figure to a little over halfway, whereas the other side is labeled 12, meaning that the entire side is 12. So I'm going to fill in my values. Area equals 12 times 8. I'm going to multiply and get 96 centimeters squared. My next step is going to be to find the area of the triangle, the white triangle that we see there. So I draw a triangle with a 2 inside of it to clearly show my work. My second step is to find the area of the triangle. Now I see that one side of the triangle is labeled 7 centimeters, but I need to find out another side of the triangle. And in order to find the area of a triangle, we have to find the base and the height, which always come together at a right angle. Since we're told that the entire figure is a rectangle, we know that each corner is 90 degrees. So if you look at the triangle, we do have 2 sides of the triangle that come together at a right angle, right here. So that means I want to find out what this side is. And I can do that because the entire figure is a rectangle, which means the opposite sides are equal. So my 8 centimeters on the bottom is going to be the same length as the 8 centimeters up top. So you can see I've written down the formula for the area of a triangle, which is half times base times height. I want you to identify the base and the height and solve for the area of just this white triangle and submit your answer when you're ready. Since you can't make the squared sign when submitting your answer, you can just put a 2 there, or you can write the word squared. Go ahead and solve just the area of the white triangle. So my base is 8 centimeters and my height is 7 centimeters. You could have identified them differently. You could have said that the base is 7 centimeters and the height is 8 centimeters, and you wouldn't have been wrong. Since they come together at a right angle and you haven't been told which one is the base, there's no way to determine specifically which one is the base or the height. But as long as you can identify one is the base and one is the height, you'll be able to solve for the area of the triangle. So I'm going to fill in my values. Half times 8 times 7. Half times 8 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28 centimeters squared. So the area of the triangle is 28 centimeters squared. I've now found the entire figure, which was 98 centimeters squared, and just the triangle, which is 28 centimeters squared. I just want to know the area of the orange shaded section. So I'm going to need to subtract the triangle section from the entire figure. And if you put your hand over the triangle section in your notebook, you'll see how if you do that, you're left with just the 4-sided orange figure. So now we're just going to subtract to find this 4-sided orange figure. To subtract, I'll write 96 minus 28. And I get 68 centimeters squared. The shaded area of the rectangle is 68 centimeters squared. Okay, for this problem, I want you to try it on your own first. Practice showing your work, number your steps. You'll submit your answer and I'll go over it when you're ready. The first step was to find the area of the entire rectangle. So I needed to identify the length and the width. So the area equals 20 times 16. When you multiply 20 times 16, you would have gotten 320 meters squared. That's the area of the entire rectangle. It includes both the shaded section and the unshaded section. The next step would be to find the area of the triangle, which I would use the formula half times base times height. You can identify 16 meters as your base and 10 meters as your height because the two sides come together at a right angle. We know that because the entire figure is a rectangle and all corners in rectangles are 90 degrees. So my area equals half times 16 times 10. Again, you could have the 16 and the 10 reversed. You'll get the same answer. Half times 16 is 8. 8 times 10 is 80 meters squared. I'm not done yet though because I want the shaded area of the rectangle. So I need to take away the white section, the part I don't want to be included in the total, from the entire rectangular area. So I'm going to subtract 320, which is the area of the entire rectangle, the shaded section and the unshaded section that we don't want to include, minus 80, which is the white section of the figure, equals 240 meters squared. The shaded area of the rectangle is 240 meters squared. Now give this one a try on your own as well. Find the shaded area of the rectangle, show your work, and number your steps. Your first step is going to be to find the area of the entire rectangle. So I'm going to use the formula length times width to find the area of the rectangle and fill in the values for length and width. 20 times 14, because those are the sides of the rectangle. 20 times 14 equals 280, and that's 280 centimeters squared. Next, I need to find the area of the triangle on the bottom because I don't want to include this white section. So I'm going to need to find the area of it and then take it away from the total area of the rectangle that I just found in step 1. So let's find the area of the triangle. I have to identify the base and the height in order to solve. I've written down my formula that I'll use, and then I'm using what I know about rectangles to identify the base. Since the top width of the rectangle is 14 centimeters, that means that the bottom is 14 centimeters too, because opposite sides in rectangles are equal. So now I've identified my base and my height, and I'm filling it in the equation. Half times 14 times 8. Half times 14 is 7. 7 times 8 equals 56 centimeters squared. Now I have one step left. I want to find just the shaded area of the rectangle. So I'm going to need to subtract the triangle from the entire rectangle because I don't want to include that unshaded part in the area. So I'm going to subtract 280 minus 56 equals 224 centimeters squared, and that is the shaded area of the rectangle. Okay, now that you're done, go ahead and open up your workbook and complete exercise 5 on pages 116 to 118.